Later in the night, Rio wakes up from her slumber and is dazed only to remember that she has been reincarnated into a new world. She thinks about her last days in the hospital after she got hit by Truck Kun, who was on a rampage, and even the doctors were unable to save her and her life was taken away. She goes outside of the mansion and is extremely happy to see the beautiful night sky filled with twinkling stars. She starts running on the grass before falling over as she is still not used to running as much. Suddenly Kelvin appears and smiles at her, claiming that he was reincarnated in this world the same as her. He claims that even he got deleted by Truck Kun and was summoned to this world, but he doesn't have much memories of his previous life. He claims that even he was terribly confused at first as he had no friends or allies and was basically all alone in a completely new world, but he ended up making a lot of friends in a short duration of time and soon this place became his home. He kept adventuring and fighting different monsters, and before he knew, he was upgraded to a rank adventurer in this world. Rio wonders why the hell is this grown man flexing on her, but tells him that she always wanted to live in a fantasy world because she was a gamer who never touched grass or had any friends. So when Truck Kun decided to choose her as his next victim, she was very surprised and oddly happy. She thanks him for summoning her to this world, and Kelvin smiles before telling her that they both have black hair, which is not very common here, so Kelvin has told everyone that they are siblings from a faraway land called Alabama. She is happy to hear this and soon gets officially enrolled in Kelvin's harem and his party. The next morning, Kelvin takes all of his party alongside Ellie and Luca into the enchanted forest to a sort of picnic. Rio is beyond happy and is running around everywhere to see what is this world, while Ellie and Luca ask why are they here with them. Kelvin explains that he has put 2 golems at the gate to guard the house, but he would still like them to know what combat feels like, as if they are ever in trouble, they can defend themselves and won't be scared and helpless. Meanwhile, Gerard cuts down a monster, Chloe takes care of another one, and Sierra punches a tree for some reason. After they start gambling on a competition about who can hunt the most monsters first and goes deep inside of the forest. Meanwhile, suddenly Ethel tells Kelvin that she can feel the presence of a powerful stray monster coming near them. Kelvin tells Mel to take care of Luca and Ellie while he gets up to face the monster. The monster turns out to be a shadow wolf, who appears in front of them with its fangs showing, ready to devour them, but as soon as it jumps over to attack, Kelvin simply uses his gravity spell that pushes him back to the ground and he is unable to move. Kelvin calmly moves towards it and then waits for its HP to go down a little before making a contract with the beast. The wolf immediately goes inside Kelvin's pokeball and is now one of his summons. After that he summons the wolf back again, who is a total hit with the girls, who immediately start hugging me. Suddenly Ethel exclaims that she can see Erd and his party coming this way in the forest. Soon Erd arrives and seems surprised to see Kelvin here. He asks what is happening and Kelvin claims that they are here for a small picnic. Erd tells him that their party recently got the opportunity of becoming rank B, but they have to hunt down a lot of monsters in a specific time period in order to complete this challenge. Erd's entire party gets jealous at the fact that this wolf monster is getting more than they ever could, but Erd tells them to control themselves. Kelvin introduces the girls to Erd's party, but this just ends up making them jealous and they run outside of the forest while Erd tries to stop them. Some time later, Gerard, Chloe and Sierra arrive back from the forest and claim that they saw Erd and his party in the forest. Kelvin explains that they are here for their exam and have to kill a bunch of monsters in the forest. Hearing this, a guilty look crosses all of them. Kelvin asks what the hell did they do, while Ethel uses her magic to check for the presence of monsters and reports to Kelvin, claiming that she can't find a single monster inside the forest. Sierra looks very guilty and smiles before explaining that they ended up killing all of them. Kelvin is horrified as now Erd won't be able to get a promotion, so he rushes back to the town and apologizes to Erd, promising that he will talk to Leo and tell him what happened. Erd tells him not to worry about it before looking at him and his party and claiming that he thinks Kelvin might be ready for his S-rank exam. The next morning, Kelvin and Rio wash the dog completely to make sure that he doesn't look as dirty as he was inside of the forest before Rio tells them that she can understand what the doggy is saying thanks to her special skill. Kelvin is surprised as he has never heard of this ability before, but soon enough, Gerard calls Rio down to the dungeon in order to complete their sword practice. In the coming days, Rio practices with a sword every day while having fun fishing with Sierra, exercising with Luca and adventuring on the doggy's back. She sleeps every day with the dog, which gives Kelvin and Mel some time to bang it out when they want. One random night, Kelvin is woken up by sudden movement and meets up with Sierra, Rio, and the doggy while the rest sleep. Gerard has been posted to guard their doors, while Sierra tells Kelvin that she thinks that a bunch of suspicious-looking men have been surrounding their mansion during the night. Kelvin uses his magic to spot all of the men, but notices that the highest ranking member among them is level 26, which is very low. Sierra asks whether she should deal with them, but Kelvin tells her to stay and instead tells Rio to go out and deal with these weaklings alongside Doggy. He tells her that she will have to face a lot of humans in this world, and this would be kind of a test to see how strong has she grown. Rio agrees to it, and in return Kelvin gives her wall hacks and a special sword that he forged for her. She goes outside dressed in her armor alongside Doggy and gets ready for a fight. The first two guys that enter the mansion are easily dealt with as she kills one of them with her sword while Doggy takes care of the other one. Kelvin and Sierra looks from a window as Sierra comments that her swordsmanship can be improved, but she still is skilled enough to learn the S-rank swordsmanship technique. Soon enough, all of the people that infiltrated the compound have been dealt with as Rio's first actual mission is deemed complete, and she celebrates with the Doggy. Kelvin tells Chloe to clean up and Sierra to make sure that Rio is not hurt as he is going out to deal with the enemies who are still hiding in the forest. He finds the leader of the ragtag group waiting for his men to come back, but Kelvin calls him from behind, claiming that they are not going to come back from the mansion ever. The man seems to be shocked at this, but Kelvin gets the look of a molester on his face and deals with him his own way. The next morning, Kelvin goes up to Leo, who tells them that the people that he caught in his mansion are put in the prison, and after interrogating them, he found out that all of them belong to the military nation Tryson. Kelvin remembers that name because the fatty that he beat up a long time ago also belonged to Tryson, and asks why the hell is that kingdom taking interest in him. Leo replies that Tryson has always wanted to take control of the entire continent for itself, and lately a lot of nearby kingdoms have been reporting that they are spotting a lot of Tryson soldier activities near the border. He also tells Kelvin that he found out that the thieves that he captured in Toraj were working under the Tryson government, who is basically wanted to scout the entire area for viable entry points. Leo tells him that their neighboring kingdom Gon has the Beats King, who is supposed to be the strongest person in the eastern part of the continent. And according to Leo, he himself has asked him to send Kelvin and his party to his empire. They travel through the forest inside of the carriage, and all of them seem to be happy about this vacation sort of thing, while Kelvin seems a little stressed about his exam. He tells them that to become an S-ranked adventurer, a person must get approval from 2 rulers. He already got one from the Queen of Toraj, and the King of Gon named Leon has promised him an approval if he can do a job. Everyone asks why is he worried then, and he explains that the king is strong enough as he is also an S-ranked adventurer, so the only reason he could be calling Kelvin is because Tryson is involved. Ethel and Sierra tell him that they should all be very careful in this new area as they can be caught in a surprise attack. And as soon as they open their mouth, an arrow comes whistling in their direction and stops their carriage. Kelvin immediately gets out of the cart and spots a bunch of elven people up on the tree with bows aimed at them. He quickly takes out a letter and shouts that he has been personally invited by the King of Gon and he means no harm. Suddenly, one of the village elders arrives, who introduces himself as Nell and apologizes for their misconduct. He takes a look at the letter and realizes that it is authentic, claiming that they have been waiting for Kelvin and his party to arrive. He suddenly looks at Ethel and calls her Lumel, asking where the hell was she from so many years ago, as all of them thought she was dead. Kelvin tells him that she is not Lumel, but Ethel, someone who was enslaved a long time ago. Nell takes them all to their treehouse inside of the forest, where they all sit down for some time. Nell apologizes for misidentifying Lumel, and claims that Ethel looks exactly like Lumel, who was lost from them 20 years ago. Kelvin asks him to tell them what happened, as it might be connected with Ethel as well, and he starts speaking. He claims that up to 20 years ago, they were living in constant peace on this side of the continent, and were basically invisible to any other person outside of the forest, but one unfortunate day, they were attacked by the Fire Dragon King, who is one of the kings of all the greater dragons. He told the villagers that one of the elves has disrespected him and he wants the elf to come in front. If he doesn't, the dragon vowed to destroy all of the village. The villagers had no idea what the dragon was talking about, and so the dragon started burning down the village without sparing anyone. He killed half the elves and burnt all of the village, when suddenly one of the elves from the village named Lumel rose up and went in front of the dragon. She told the dragon to direct all of his anger towards her and to let the other elves live. The dragon took one look at her but claimed that she was not the one who disrespected him, but he was an incel who never smelt a woman before, so he takes the opportunity and tells Lumel that if she is ready to become his wife and let him clap those cheeks, he will let the rest of the villagers live. She agreed and he took her on his back before flying away. No one ever saw either of them afterwards. Kelvin asks that if everything is sorted, then what's the problem now, and Nell replies that a couple years later they found Lumel's dead body inside of the forest and are scared that the dragon might appear again to take revenge. Everyone looks at Ethel and Gerard asks whether it is possible that Ethel is the daughter of the Dragon King and Lumel. Mel, however, calls him an idiot and claims that size does matter and Dragon King is definitely a virgin. She also claims that Ethel is a half-elf that could only be made by a human and an elf, so this makes it possible that the dragon got cucked by a human, and that's why out of anger, he killed Lumel. Kelvin tells them to write their fanfictions on Tumblr, while Nell claims that right now they are not facing the Dragon King though. The main problem is some enemies who have been infiltrating their villages and kidnapping elves every now and then. He claims that they were too weak to stop them and even the gone soldiers were of no use. Kelvin tells him not to worry as he will deal with that problem now and asks Nell whether he could renovate the village till then as he really wants to be like Bob the Builder. Nell agrees and Kelvin gets ready to take this village to the future. Later that night when the moon is up in the sky, a bunch of soldiers from Trison start moving into the Gone territory alongside a huge horde of demon beasts that they seem to be controlling using a special collar that their kingdom acquired. They seem to think that the Gone army is filled with cowards who decided to run away instead of fight, but their commander tells them to keep moving and make noise as their game plan is to attract the attention of any kind of Gone forces and then eliminate them immediately. Suddenly one of them gets hit by an arrow which shocks everyone else as they are still far away from the elf village, but before they can realize what's happening, they all start falling like flies as a bunch of arrows are shot at them by someone that they are unable to find. We finally see that the arrows are being shot by none other than Ethel, who is being assisted by Kelvin and the bow that he created for her. This bow can shoot from extremely long ranges, and alongside that it doesn't make any noise when shooting. Kelvin has reinforced the village and made it into a fortress as he stands atop a watchtower and helps Ethel take them down. The walls have been made strong and high and are also covered by Mel's mysterious fog of war. Alongside that there is a massive moat outside the walls, and the water around it is also bewitched by Syrah's black magic. This altogether has made the village almost impregnable. Moreover, Gerard, Syrah, Doggy, and Rio have been stationed outside the ramparts to make sure that not even a single enemy is able to make their way inside the wall. Soon after that, one of the enemy soldier runs back to their captain back at their camp with the news that they have been attacked and most of their units have been destroyed. The captain is furious and asks whether it's the army from Gone or Torach, but the soldier replies that it's only an adventuring party involving 3 girls and a wolf that has been destroying their ranks like nothing. The captain is unable to believe this, but suddenly out of the woods, Rio and Mel arrive and thank the soldier for leading them to their captain. The soldier runs away while the captain realizes that he needs to do something about this and decides to use his trump card. He takes out a shell and blows into it, creating a huge noise, and suddenly from inside the forest, a giant monster wakes up. Rio is amazed to see the size of this creature while Mel looks at it and assesses it to be an S-rank monster. She then looks at Rio and tells her to deal with the monster alongside the doggy. At first Rio seems to be a bit unsure, but Mel claims that if she is able to do this then she should be considered a full-fledged adventurer. The captain is shocked to see that only a girl and her dog are running into the forest to deal with their strongest weapon, while the monster tries to punch Rio into dust, but they dodge the attack and start running up its arm. She jumps up in the air and takes out her sword to deliver a swift slash to the monster's head, but the moment the sword touches the head, it shatters into small pieces. The monster immediately tries to hit her, but she quickly dodges out of the way. Unfortunately for her, the monster pursues and hits the ground, which creates a lot of dust and stone to fly towards her, injuring her. She drops back to the ground and realizes that this could be dangerous, and in order to defeat this beast she needs to hit him with a single clean slash and kill it. She starts running towards it once again alongside Doggy, while Chloe gives her 2 more swords to fight with. She runs up his body once again and alongside Doggy, delivers an incredibly powerful lightning-fast slash that kills the monster. Before she could celebrate, however, the monster transforms and gets up once again to assume its final form. Now this giant beast is burning with flame all over his body. The captain screams at him to finish the enemy, while Syrah, Gerard, Kelvin, and Ethel all watch from a distance. Ethel seems to be scared for Rio, but Kelvin reassures her that she will do just fine. The monster tries to punch Rio to the ground, but she is easily able to dodge before running up his body once again. She looks at him one final time and says "Hasta la vista baby" as she uses the same attack once again and completely destroys the beast. This scares the living crap out of the captain and his soldiers, who run away as they can't believe that a small girl defeated their strongest monster. Kelvin seems to be proud of Rio as he and Ethel watch the scattered enemies from afar when suddenly Kelvin senses an attack and creates a barrier around them, just in time to block an insanely strong attack. When the dust clears, Kelvin notices a guy flying in the air alongside his cronies, who congratulates Kelvin for blocking the attack, while he realizes that this enemy is really strong. The man introduces himself as Clive and immediately notices Ethel while his eyes light up. He immediately tells her that she is the most beautiful person that he has ever seen and tries to use his charm magic on her. Before it could hit her though, Kelvin intercepts it and uses a blast to drive him back. Clive looks at him once again as if he was only a mere insect and asks what the hell is his problem. This totally enrages him as he tells Clive to back the hell off as no one touches any girl in his harem. Kelvin decides to play it safe and checks out his stats only to realize that Clive is level 91 and he seems to have a lot of abilities that you should only be able to get once you are reincarnated. He immediately shouts at him, asking if he was reincarnated, which shocks Clive as he realizes that Kelvin must be a very high-rank person to know that. This makes him realize that Kelvin is reincarnated as well, but he doesn't seem to worry about it much. Kelvin knows that this could turn real ugly real quick, so he tells Ethel to run down the tower and hide herself somewhere. When Clive sees her running away, he tries to shout at her to stop, but Kelvin immediately uses a massive gust of wind that blows Clive alongside his cronies away. He uses this time to disintegrate the tower and converts it into 4 giant lances, prepped and ready to attack. As soon as he spots Clive from the dust, he immediately shoots one of the lances that catch him off guard, but still his defense is so strong that the lance is blown away by it. Clive admits that it could have gotten scary if not for his superb defense magic, but Kelvin tells him that it is not over before shooting all 4 of the lances at him together. The lances attack him from 4 different directions, but they all are stopped by Clive's magical barrier. Watching this, Kelvin decides to use even more magic blasts, but all of them are useless, while Clive laughs and claims that he is just wasting his time and energy over this stuff. He tells Kelvin that no physical or magical attacks can cross his barrier, and usually anything that touches it gets destroyed immediately, but his magic must be really strong and that's why these lances are still intact. After that, he simply blows all of them away before telling Kelvin to look behind. Suddenly Kelvin notices an attack coming his way, but he immediately blocks it with his staff while using his other 3 lances to distract the other attackers. Suddenly, Kelvin realizes that all of these girls seem to be charmed by him and are under his control, so he pushes all of them back. Clive tells him to admit defeat as he can never defeat him, but suddenly a super strong beam hits his barrier and completely destroys it. Shocked, he looks down to find Ethel aiming a bow at him. Meanwhile, Kelvin summons a bunch of golems and gives them the lances to even out the battlefield, but tells them not to kill the girls. The clash begins between them, leaving Kelvin and Clive to fight a one-on-one battle. Clive gets into the mood for battle and gets his staff out before they both start flying up in the air. Clive commends him for being able to keep up with him, but Kelvin is ready to test who is faster and decides to challenge him. Clive immediately uses a magic blast at him, but Kelvin dodges before replying with one of his own magic beams, which is blocked. They start fighting in the air, and what seemed to be a fight between 2 mages quickly transforms into a World War II dogfight as they both fly around in the sky, doing stunts while shooting a barrage of magic blasts at each other constantly. Clive seems to have the upper hand as he pursues Kelvin, but Kelvin is able to dodge almost all of the attacks pretty easily. Suddenly there comes a point when they start flying dangerously close to fighting golems, but Clive STLL continues to attack and the stray blasts barely miss his underlings. Kelvin gets worried and shouts at him that he is going to hurt his teammates if he keeps doing that, but Clive doesn't give a shit and continues his barrage, forcing Kelvin to make a maneuver to make sure the girls are not harmed. Soon they both start ascending in the sky while Clive makes fun of him for caring so much for people in this world. He tells him that they don't belong from this place, so why should they care about the people living here? This makes Kelvin mad as he thinks about the relationships that he has forged with the people in this world. They both get ready as Clive loads up his barrier and Kelvin decides to unleash one of his most devastating attacks. The clash happens in the sky and the results are devastating as a huge blast takes place as Clive realizes that his barrier was broken, while Kelvin loses his staff to this clash. Clive also gets a minor scratch on his face, but like a girl just before her time of the month, he loses his shit over a small matter and starts screaming that he will destroy everything. He starts charging up his S-rank magic, which is basically equal to a massive natural disaster, and the entire sky turns purple. Everyone watches him in the sky, and even Kelvin realizes that this could have horrible consequences as a large amount of wind starts flowing up in the sky while all the villagers look up terrified. Kelvin descends on a mountain top and pulls out an entire new staff out of Close-ass and starts charging it with magical energy. It comes to a boil as Clive gets ready to destroy the entire area, but Kelvin's staff turns into a magical scythe and they both meet head-on in a huge collision, but Kelvin decisively comes on top this time as he slices through the magic and completely nullifies it. He starts breathing hard and notices that Clive is in a much worse shape, lying on the ground with his legs chopped off. He moves towards the legless bastard with conviction in his eyes to end his life, but before he could deliver the final hit, someone saves Clive. Kelvin turns around to find a mecha-like monster carrying Clive, and another spectacled man who introduces himself as Tristan. He claims that he is one of the generals of the Tryson army and he was the one who initiated and planned the attack on these villages. Kelvin moves towards him and realizes that this teleportation shit that he just witnessed is one of the special abilities of a summoner, and wonders who Tristan is. He tells Kelvin that they are defeated today and will be falling back, but also tells Kelvin that this is not the last time that he has seen them and that they would probably meet sooner than he expects. After that, he disappears and the battle is finally over. Everyone contacts Kelvin to ask whether he is okay, while he replies that he is fine and is floating back to the village. Ethel discloses the news of their victory to Nell, and he is beyond himself with joy as he realizes that the village has been saved and immediately tells the villagers to prepare a banquet for their heroes. Kelvin arrives at the ramparts and notices that Mel, Sierra, and Rio seem to be having a race amongst themselves that Rio ends up winning. Elvin praises everyone for their contribution in this fight. Later that night they have a massive party after which Kelvin goes atop the hill to get some alone time, but this clingy bitch Ethel follows him up and starts making small talk to him. Soon the rest of his party also arrives alongside a small elf girl who immediately hugs Kelvin. Soon she starts laughing maniacally before revealing that she is the King Leon of this kingdom. Everyone is super confused, but he reveals that he has an item that lets him change his form at will. He claims that he used this avatar so that he can hide and watch Kelvin fight, and that he is proud to say that he passed the exam, which means that Kelvin is now an S-ranked adventurer. He claims that soon they will have a huge ceremony in the kingdom where he will be awarded his rank, and then there would be a small tournament between other S-ranked adventurers. This gets Kelvin's blood rushing, and he gets excited to finally take part in an actual tournament soon now that the battle is delayed for some time. After that they all head down the hill to get a good night's sleep so that they are charged enough to take on any challenges they face further on.